Good afternoon. Welcome to Georgetown School District regular board meeting, April 5th at approximately 5:30 p.m. Couple of quick, guess I can hold on to it. Couple of changes we're going to make as we go along. For example, right now, would everybody please stand and go along with me with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stand for a moment of silence. Amen. Due to inclement weather that was predicted for this afternoon, the recognitions that were supposed to take place tonight will take place on our next meeting, which is May 3rd, 2022. And the recognition of Winter 2021 All-State Athlete, Winnebago High State Championship, the Win Takers, and the Waccamaw High School Council will also take place at the next board meeting, which is May 3rd, 2022. Now we move on. Our session for public comments requests. Not you, Mr. Walters. You don't count. Okay. That means we don't, that means we don't have any. So that means everything is all right. And it appears that Mr. Keith made a wise decision, whether or not we're not gods, you know. So we have to go with the best available information. All right, so the next order of business, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved and second that we accept approval of the minutes as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
It appears that the ayes have it. Motion is carried. Minutes have been approved. Next, we have adoption of the agenda. And as far as I can surmise, it remains intact. Do I have a motion for adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
It has been moved and probably second that we accept the agenda as proposed. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Ayes have it. Agenda has been adopted. Moving on along. And notice what I said, moving on along. If you were wrong last year, and I have the privilege, so nobody can stop me right now. Moving along, we had a pretty hectic meeting last week. One of the longest marathon I've had in my 14 years on the board. And on that note, we're going to move along to some action items, beginning with personnel lists. Dr. Milton and Mr. Jenkins. All right. Barring no other discussions, I need a motion to accept the personnel list as presented.
Got a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
C9 and C15, Just out of curiosity, have they been employed by the school district in the past?
Good evening, members of the board, Chairman Lance, Mr. Price, district staff and guests. C9 and C,
No, sir, I said, I'm sorry, C as in cat, C9 and C15.
C9 and C15 have been previous employees, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion to accept the personnel list as presented?
So moved.
Second. It has been moved and probably second that we accept the personnel list as presented. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Opposed, none.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Opposed, none. Motion is carried. Dr. Lindsay Ann Thompson and Mr. Waters.
Good evening, Chairman Lance, members of the board, Mr. Price. We have 3 policies and administrative rules to bring before you tonight. As you know, the board manual is sort of a living, breathing document that has to be updated and cleaned up periodically. And this first one is an administrative rule, so it only requires 1 reading to revise. And this is the work heavily of Mr. Walters and our lead nurse, Ms. McCall. They worked through this particular policy to kind of bring it up to date with our current practices. This had kind of limited us. One specific issue was it had limited us to a specific type of defibrillator as opposed to just using, best available, that sort of thing. It kind of cleans it up where the district lead nurse is taking a little bit more responsibility, and we kind of changed some names, but it really just aligns the policy with our current practices. And there's not a significant substantive change to go through, just cleaning it up and making sure it aligns with what we're actually doing. And again, this is an administrative rule and only requires 1 reading for the revision tonight.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
The program coordinator for the district's AED program, who is that?
I believe that we decided that was going to be the district's lead nurse. Is that correct, Mr. Walters? I'll defer to him. Did we decide the program coordinator?
No, the program coordinator is my department. We didn't name a specific individual for that, and that's because it's more than just the procedural stuff that the nurse is responsible for, but also the maintenance of the equipment. We buy all the pads and make sure all the inspection reports are turned in, the administrative side of it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Question? Barring none, the administration recommends first and final reading approval of Administrative Rule EBBE/R, Automated External Defibrillator AED Program as presented. Do I have a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we accept Administrative Rule EBBE-R as presented. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, none. Ayes have it. Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Dr. Thompson.
Yes, sir. The next policy actually is a policy update to align us with the changes in state law and state regulation. And Mr. Walters has been following this very carefully in terms of what the fire marshal has asked for and what the state code has asked for. So I'll defer to him on any specific comments about that. But this is really just bringing us into line with the requirements for safety plans and drills that the state law requires now. But any other comments?
Basically what it does, a state law was passed a couple of years ago that changes the way we do our drills so that now you have to have 2 fire drills, 2 extreme weather drills, a tornado and earthquake drill, and then 2 active intruder or active shooter type drills each year. And so that corrects that language in here, and it also specifies a little more information about the terminology and all this currently in use.
And I'll also point out that Mr. Price suggested, and I think we all agreed that was a good suggestion, that the active shooter and intruder drills, that the first of those must occur within the first 10 days of the start of the school year, so that as soon as kids get there, they've had that drill under their belt, so that, you know, in the event of something terrible happening, they've had that drill early on in the year, which I thought was a good suggestion and a good change from our current practices.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, did you ask?
I was just gonna ask, so it's going from once a month to twice a year, is what you're saying?
We'll still do a drill every month, but there'll be different types. So they'll still do 1 drill a month, whether it's a fire drill, a weather drill, or an active shooter drill.
And so that's at every school?
Correct.
I want to be totally clear. Schools are supposed to have, according to what I thought, a fire drill every month. Is that correct? I'm not talking about any other drill. I'm talking about a fire drill.
So-
No not combos or anything. A fire drill.
So what the fire code says, a fire drill each month. The regulation does not say that. The state law does not say that. And so state law supersedes the fire code. In fact, it says in the fire code that any laws, ordinances, or regulations to the contrary supersede it.
And when did that happen? Because for years and years, we were having fire drills every month in the district.
When this law was passed, about the 6 per year,
When was that?
I think 2 years ago.
It was just pre-COVID. Oops, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so the State Department originally asked us, to make these revisions for June of 2020. Is that right? Or
Right,
July of
and it
2020?
got
It kept getting pushed back.
Pushed back.
So the law has kind of been on the books for a little while, but the requirement to change our policy didn't come through as a requirement until this June 30th, I believe.
Right.
Other questions?
Scary.
The administration recommends first reading approval of policy EBBC, safety plans and drill as presented. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Opposes? None? Policy, the motion is carried. Mr. Thompson.
Okay, and the last policy that we have for you tonight is EBBCB, and the title is being changed from Written Hazard Communication Program to Hazardous Materials. And as you can see, the former policy was very detailed, more of an internal procedure than an actual board policy. So Mr. Walters went through and cleaned up to just include what has to be in a board policy rather than these really detailed procedures that were included. And you'll see that once you go through everything that has been stricken, and what's left that's underlined, the policy will be much shorter and much easier to comply with. And one of the biggest things that remains is that the safety data sheets are uploaded online. And whenever a new hazardous material or hazardous product or chemical is brought into a school, it has to be put on that school's safety data sheet. Okay. And those are all listed online and available for the public to review at any point as required by law.
Question? The administration recommends first reading approval of policy EBBCB, hazardous material as presented. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and properly second that we accept policy EBBCB, hazardous materials. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposes none? Motion's carried. Still moving on that line. South Carolina Forestry Commission.
Yes, sir. A couple of weeks ago, we were contacted by the South Carolina Forestry Commission to ask for the board to extend 2 letters of support for the Forestry Commission to acquire 2 tracts of land here in Georgetown County. And so what it is, it's really kind of, I guess, the height of bureaucratic red tape. But the South Carolina Department of Administration requires the South Carolina Forestry Commission to get the support of a local school board and a local county council anytime it receives or purchases property within a county. And the Forestry Commission is being gifted 2 different tracts of land outside of the WT State Forest, which is why there are 2 separate letters that are required. And the 2 letters that are included in your board packet describe those 2 tracts of land, and they total together about 3,000 or so, a little bit more than that, about 4,000 acres of land that the Forestry Commission will be acquiring in Georgetown County outside of the WT Forest. So basically, they're just asking for you all to say that you support the Forestry Commission receiving these 2 tracts of land. And one of the things that they do point out is that the Forestry Commission pays 25% of the gross revenue generated at the state forest to the county in which that state forest is located. They pay that to general school purposes. So you would be experiencing a very small revenue uptick based on this if you were to support this donation of land, 2 pieces of land to the Forestry Commission.
Question?
I'm just curious, Dr. Lynch.
Question?
Did the county council or the council, or the county administrator, were they asked the same thing of a support letter?
They, I wasn't privy to that communication, but according to the South Carolina Department of Administration procedures, they have to have the county council's letter of support as well.
Okay, do
So-
you know, I'm sorry.
I can certainly check on that to see.
Just out of curiosity, I just want to know, because I would not want us to be in support, and then there, for some reason unknown, would be against it. I think it would be better to be in unison than,
Okay.
you know, which again, I'm presupposing something, but I would like to know if they approve as well.
I can do that. So we can either amend, or you could submit a motion stating that you would like to submit the letter of support pending the information from the county council as to whether they've submitted a letter of support, or you could table this item for the following meeting if you'd like.
Well, like I said, I just bring that up there for, you know, us to dwell on, think about.
It hasn't been a motion or anything yet, so do you want to vote on this? Actually, you have to. You have to do, either I'm going to put this up and you vote it down, or somebody's going to give me a motion to take its place, and we will vote on that. Discussion.
I think it might be worthy to look into it. Mr. Cafaro,
Table it perhaps?
can we table it? Can we make a motion to table this until our next meeting? Do we need a motion to do that, or just not? I make the motion that we table it to our next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We've got a second.
Okay.
It's been moved and properly second that the item for consideration, South Carolina Forestry Commission, be tabled for a further date to obtain some additional information regarding supporting Georgetown County. Do I have a motion?
So move.
It's been moved and probably second. Mr. Board Secretary, that we accept the motion just presented by Arthur Lyons. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, opposers, none? Question?
Just confused by what you just said.
I couldn't remember everything I said, that's why I called on her, so it'll be official.
Okay.
I made the motion.
Gaskins made the motion.
I made the motion,
You remember?
yeah.
It was seconded.
I made the motion, and it was seconded by Mr. Cafaro.
normally I would repeat what you said, but I couldn't remember everything.
That's okay.
All right?
That's okay.
So the way around it was what I just did.
Okay.
Because she has copy of the motion, all right? All those in favor, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposes? None? Ayes have it.
Okay, so
Motion is carried.
for clarity's sake, we will find out from the county council whether they were asked to submit a letter of support and whether they have done so for these 2 tracts of land. I'll find that out prior to the next meeting, and we'll present that to you at the next meeting and rediscuss the letters of support for these 2 tracts of land. Okay, thank you.
Next item is yours. Mr. Keith,
Thank you, Chairman Lance, and
no tabling this time. That's enough of that for today.
thank you, Chairman Lance, and ladies and gentlemen of the board. Tonight, we are asking for a vote of support to submit a letter of support for a Magnet Schools Assistance Program grant application. You may recall back in the early fall, as we were reviewing our goals for the upcoming school year, that one of those goals was to apply for a Magnet Schools grant. Well, that application window and due date is upon us. It's within the next couple of weeks. And our area that we are targeting for this Magnet grant is our Carvers Bay area schools. And our 5 principals from that attendance area has been working throughout the year with their faculty, with their community, in identifying a theme and a focus for their Magnet programs. And we will be prepared, as we put the finishing touches on our application, to bring a more formal presentation to you at the May meeting, at the May workshop meeting, to give you an in-depth overview of what our efforts have yielded us. And so we are targeting a Magnet program at each of the 5 schools in the Carvers Bay area. And what we're asking for tonight is approval for a letter of support to go along with our application as we submit it by the deadline.
Clarification. Did I hear you say that the magnet schools would occur within each school?
Yes, ma'am. Each school would be its own magnet school. It would be a school-wide magnet program, and each of the schools would have their own theme for what their work's focus was going to be.
Mr. Price, remind me, what's the length of time of this grant? How long it will last?
It is a 5-year grant that, based on the level of approval, could be up to a $15 million grant.
Okay. And this is a federal grant, correct?
This is a federal grant that's sponsored by the U.S. Department of Education.
Do we have the population in the area to sustain such a program? Secondly, is this an attempt to boost the academics or to help others to see the beauty of my part of the country?
All of the above, Dr. Lance, all of the above. There are some primary goals of this MSAP grant, and one of those is to increase enrollment. The magnet concept is to attract more students to that area and also to retain students in that area to keep them from maybe pursuing opportunities in other places in our county or outside of our county. It will also target, one of its goals is to reduce minority isolation, to help attract a more diverse student body so that we have a balanced student population at our 5 schools in that attendance area. Thirdly, it's going to decrease and address the opportunity gap by bringing some unique programs and some unique opportunities to these 5 schools that otherwise may not exist. And then it's also, as you said, to focus on improving academic achievement and putting some very specific initiatives in place to do so. So all of those things are what this magnet grant are all about.
Anybody else? What? The administration requests a letter for the Board of Trustees supporting the district application for a grant from Magnet Schools Assistant Program. Do I have a motion for a letter of support?
So moved.
It's been moved and probably second that the board approves a letter of support for the grant MSAP as presented and explained. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? None? Ayes have it. The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Ms. Ackerman?
Good evening, Dr. Lance, members of the board, Mr. Price. The action item that we have before you this evening is for the replacement of 5 life safety systems, the fire alarm systems, at 5 different sites, Georgetown Career Center, Howard Adult, J.B. Beck, Kensington, and McDonald. This is the continuation of the replacement of those fire alarm systems that we initially started with the bond work. These systems were not in as great of need for replacement originally, but they are nearing end of life. Parts are getting much harder to obtain for those systems. All of this is being done with the bond referendum monies, so we're requesting authorization to award that contract that was recently bid, with Johnson Controls being the awarded bidder of record. So we're requesting authorization to approve that contract this evening.
Question? Having none, the administration recommends approval of a contract awarded for fire alarm system replacement to Johnson Control Fire Protection LP from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The system being replaced with award are as follows: Georgetown Career Center, Howard Adult Center, J.B. Beck Administration and Education Center, Kensington Elementary School, McDonald Elementary School. The total base bid for all sites is $1,559,475, with a not-to-exceed contract of $1,640,000, as funded by Bond Referendum 216 monies. Johnson Control Fire Protection LP is deemed to be the lowest responsible and responsive bidder of record. Furthermore, the board authorizes the superintendent to execute the contract on behalf of the board. Do I have a motion? It has been moved and properly second that we accept the recommendation of the approval of contract award for fire alarm system replacement as presented. Those in favor?
Aye.
It has been properly second that we accept approval as the contract as presented. Let's try it one more time. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? None have it. Motion is carried.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're dredging along. Information items, money items. District staff.
Thank you, Dr. Lance. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, at our last meeting, you heard presentations from our principal representatives for the requested items coming from our school sites. And tonight you will hear presentations from members of our district staff. And we'll begin with Dr. Milton and Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Good evening, Dr. Lance, board members. In an effort to strengthen our recruitment areas for some hard-to-fill areas and to increase our retention rate, we are going to propose some maintenance stipends, and Mr. Davis is going to come up and present those as they're on the board.
Dr. Lance, members of the board, Mr. Price, good evening. As Dr. Milton stated, the stipend will help to retain and recruit qualified technicians for our maintenance department, and we have identified 3 levels of job-specific skills to focus on for this upcoming year. First, the restricted use license is for $1,000, and it's up to 3 people. This is for herbicide or pesticide license, and usually this can be obtained by taking courses online through Clemson Extension. We currently have 1 individual in our department that is certified to spray herbicides and pesticides. And we're opening up this for the grounds and athletic grounds crew. Second was the certification or license, and that is for $1,500, and this is for individuals in the following departments: general contractors, which include the electrical department, plumbing, and carpentry; welding, which is the roofing department; and our locksmiths. And currently, we have 6 individuals in those departments that have a license or certification in those areas, and we are possibly looking to employ more individuals with that opportunity for certification or license, or give them a chance to receive that, up to 10 individuals. And finally, those that have a degree, an associate's or bachelor's degree, for $2,500, and that is up to 5 individuals in the electrical department and the HVAC department, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Currently, we have 3 individuals in those departments that currently have an associate's degree for electrical and HVAC. So it is our goal, again, to help to retain and recruit individuals for our maintenance department, and hopefully we can give them the stipend as a means of encouragement.
If I understand correctly, the stipend will go if they're working toward these license?
Either working or have them,
Or have
if they
it.
have them.
And this is once a year, 1,000 once a year?
Yes, once a
And the-
year.
And the degree, 2,500, is that a stipend if they're working on a degree or if they have a degree?
If they have the degree.
Okay.
And currently, we have some individuals that already have degrees or licenses in those particular areas.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you.
Good evening. Building on the theme of retention and recruitment, I come before you this evening to present 3 items. As you know, in our high-needs rural schools, which would be the Carvers Bay area, the Andrews area to include Sandpit, there traditionally has been a higher turnover. The longevity there is not as it is in the other locations. So therefore, what I'm asking this evening is, in looking what other school districts are doing for retention purposes, is giving a stipend of $1,500 to be paid at the end of 3 years of service at one of our high-needs schools. So the first payout would be for the 24-25 school year. In looking at what we would have to budget, of course, we have to look at the turnover rate that we currently have, and then we're trying to build up that pot of money for the end of that 3rd year. So that's why this year what we're requesting is a total of $50,000 to be set aside to help to achieve that. But given that being said, we would have to look again at the end of this fiscal year to look at the retention rate and see if we would have to adjust that up or down so that we would have enough funds to cover the $1,500 that we would pay out to those individuals that have served 3 years, whether they are new teachers or current teachers at those locations.
Question?
The second one is a situation that was started with Charleston County last year. They were paying their senior interns, those individual student teachers that were doing their senior interns at those locations, if they were to sign a contract with Charleston County School District, they were giving them a supplement. That is something that we would like to do as well in looking at if you are doing your senior intern and your practicum within Georgetown County School District and are offered and accept a position of a $1,000 signing bonus. Now, one of the things that we learned from our surrounding districts is that bonus is paid at the end of their first year. So that way we make sure that they have given us 1 year of service. And we just think it will be a wonderful recruitment tool, another reason to come and do your internship in Georgetown and to experience everything that we have to offer, and why Georgetown is the best choice.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, sir.
If I may, can I go back to the first one for a
Yes, sir.
second? Again, this is just food for thought, okay?
Yes, sir.
Instead of waiting to give them $1,500 after 3 years, why not give them $500 at the end of the first year, $500 a second? In other words, that way they get, have a little spending money, they can go ahead and buy breakfast over the summer or something.
Yes, sir. That is the catch-22. It's, do you want the longevity aspect of it for 3 years, or do you want the instantaneous of it? But I'm flexible either way that you would direct me to go.
Well, I'm just saying, if it was me, just personal preference, I like money. Maybe not the whole $1,500 up front, but, after they finish that first year, hey, good job, here you go, it's $500. Next year, we'll do the same thing for you.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Borrowing that 40 grand a year per first-year teachers, according to McMaster's, is that $1,500 enough?
It's a starting point.
I didn't ask that. Is it
I will
enough?
say Charleston pays 25.
If it's competitive.
No, sir. It's a
Otherwise,
little,
you're wasting your time if it's not.
it's a little less, but there again, I'm just trying to get it started.
Mr. Price can't bumping up the competitive districts.
Yeah, Mr. Price, you got magic.
Show me where the money tree is.
Miss Lisa? She said, show him where the money tree are. That's the money
She
tree.
said, okay, all right.
And in looking at the third request, one of the presentations that you were going to have this evening dealt with a student council situation. Student council, for some reason, is one of the organizations that do not have a stipend listed in our extra duties and responsibilities. So in talking with Mr. Price, he directed me to look at what we currently offer stipends. So I looked at the largest team department chair stipend. I also looked at our all-county stipends that we have and settled with the $1,500 that would be paid to the 4 middle schools and the 4 high schools for somebody who sponsors student council. Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
It appears to me, Mr. Jenkins, that the money is forthcoming.
Good evening, Chairman Lance, board members, Mr. Price, district staff, and guests. I'll begin the presentations for the Academic and Student Services Department. This evening, I present to you two programs that are not new, but they're just going to be an expansion of what we currently have in our department. The first request is to expand iReady. Currently, we utilize iReady in grades 1 through 9. As of next year, we will not have to administer iReady in grade 9, so we will only have iReady in grades 1 through 8. As you know, iReady is a skills assessment that assists us in identifying skills gaps and closing skills gaps. Grades 1 and 2 currently do not utilize the pathways that is available in iReady, which has been a concern of many of our teachers. We feel that they are ready to move forward with personal pathways in those grade levels, so this would allow for teachers in grades 1 and 2 to utilize the program at its full potential in regards to instructional resources and differentiating instruction. The second request is for a math screener for our primary grades. This is mandated by the state. Currently, we have DIBELS as our primary literacy screener, so just adding the math component would put us in compliance. Screeners, for those of you who aren't familiar with them, are used for identifying strengths and weaknesses in specific areas that will enable us to target curricular issues, offer professional development, and most importantly, provide instruction to our other students, to our students that would enable them to become competent and confident in their learning progression. And additionally, we are just asking to maintain all the professional development opportunities that we afforded our staff this year. We know that competency levels have improved for many of them, but we still have some work to do in some areas, and that's going to look different in schools and in grade levels across the district. So we just want to maintain those professional development opportunities that we're currently offering. Approved. Thank you.
That was easy.
Good evening, Chairman Lance, members of the board, Mr. Price, district staff, and guests. I'd like to begin by thanking you for your continued support of our secondary schools. And on behalf of the secondary schools tonight, we'd like to present the following request. Our first request tonight is a renewal of a digital instructional software package to supplement and enhance learning at the secondary level, including our middle schools, high schools, Howard Alternative, and our adult ed programs. This would include the opportunity for students to earn initial credit, utilize credit recovery, implement content recovery, and utilize all aspects of blended learning to differentiate instruction. Our contract with our current provider, Edmentum, expires at the end of this year, and we are currently reviewing 3 options to determine which provider best meets the current needs of our teachers and students. And I do want to note, our current contract was for $110,000, so I'm not up here asking for a new $102,000 to $130,000, but that is based on the current quotes we have and the cost range as we look at these various programs. The second request we have today centers around improving student writing through formative diagnostics, differentiation activities, and consistent and intentional feedback from teachers. The program No Red Ink targets students' overall writing and grammatical skills and provides teachers the opportunity to differentiate instruction and provide instant feedback for our students. And it has a pathway that it utilizes as well. And it's an interactive writing cycle with ongoing feedback. And our teachers have used the free version this year, and this request came from an abundance of our secondary English teachers who found the paid version they felt like had tremendous opportunities for our students. The final request I have tonight is for district-wide funding for Turnitin plagiarism solution as well. And many of you may be familiar with it as the old-fashioned plagiarism software. However, now it also has feedback components where if you get the paid version, teachers can put their rubrics in there and it will grade the writing and give teachers feedback on areas where students can improve. Now, I think you all know writing right now is all being done on the computer in a digital platform, and student plagiarism has become more of a problem than back in the days when I was in school and you wrote your paper by hand. So teachers would utilize that in both ways to support students and their writing. Questions that you guys may have for me? That's all the requests we have. Professional development up there is the professional development cost for the digital software. We're not asking for any other. It's just tied in with the digital software that goes with it. Any questions I may answer for you all?
Just for clarification, so the Turnitin and No Red Ink, those are the writing and plagiarism software?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Recommended?
Yes, ma'am, they are. By an abundance of our English teachers, middle and high, they were excited by using the free versions of them this year. Thank you, guys.
Dr. Lance, school board members, Mr. Price, and visitors. First, I want to again thank you for all the support that you provide for special services. I know you all look forward to my presentation yearly. So thank you for that. As you can see, last 2 years through COVID, did some reduction of our students, and usually I send to you all monthly our numbers of what was going on month to month. We just got this fresh off the press on Monday, so I do want to share that we started out with 1,340 students, special abilities, and we are now at 1,418, so that's almost 80 students that we have added. Thus, now I'm going to lead into why we're looking at some of these requests. Our first request, and I will stop at each school in case we have questions. Our first request is a multi-category teacher at Georgetown High School. At this moment, we are anticipating 66 students moving up to the high school, with about 20 that will be exiting with either diploma or exiting because of years out. Right now, that school is at capacity with their special abilities teachers and the number of students on their rosters. And so you can see a 60-20, there's about 40 students that are going to need to be placed, and we don't really have the room, or we don't have the room. So adding another additional teacher for the resource program will allow us to go ahead and accommodate those students, and most importantly, stay in compliance with IDA and the State Department. So that is for Georgetown High School. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one, and that's Sandpit Elementary. As you may know, we have a pre-K program for our 3- and 4-year-olds. They are located right now, one is Waccamaw Elementary. We have one program at Andrews Elementary, and then we have two, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old program at, two at McDonald Elementary, a 3 and 4, one at Waccamaw, and one at Andrews Elementary. This year, and I will again use COVID as an explanation, the last year and a half, our child find, and that's when we bring these 3 and 4 years olds in, was drastically reduced because of COVID. Parents did not want their students at 3 and 4, with some of them have multiple health concerns as well as some learning challenges. Did not come to child find, refuse, not say refuse, just said we will come back at a later time when we feel more comfortable. Guess when that was? This year right here. Our child find has been packed. We usually have one every other week, and right now we're running sometimes 2 and 3 a month, and that's additional to try and get these kids in, because we are by law have to go ahead and serve them when they turn 3 years old. I want to throw this number out to you. In our pre-K classes this year alone, we had 57 when we started out. We're at now 89. That's 32 pre-K students that we have found child find. We find them, they come. That put a stress, and for whatever reason, I cannot tell you, but for whatever reason, the majority of those students were out in the Andrews Elementary area. So that number is usually capped off at 15 or 16. We went up to almost 20 in January. The board, the school, those that have the powers that be at our school district allowed us to actually work with a teacher that was going through their final internship, and she took over that class and is teaching some of them in the morning to reduce that number at that school. And talking with them actually today, we're looking at 11 3-year-olds that are already there that would be in that class starting out in day 1 August in Andrews Elementary. So the idea was that we go ahead and create another class, move it to Sandpit. There are about 5 kids of those 3-year-olds that would be at the Sandpit attendance area. So have another pre-K class at Sandpit, which would allow us to take some kids from Andrews if we meet that threshold, and also to allow us to maybe take a few at the McDonald area too, because that would allow us some flexibility if our numbers grow. I wish I could tell you how many kids would come through Child Find. We do get some reports, but it is not as finite as you wish it would be, because they come in 3-year-olds when they turn 3. They come in. Hats off to those pediatricians and those that know where to send them, because that is, if we get them early and we know we put those things in place for them to prosper, we will be able to work with them and move them further. So that is Sandpit. That it'll be a multi-cat teacher with a pre-K add-on. The price is $51,000 plus benefits, and that we took about, I think, a 10 to 12 year teacher experience, not starting out, so to give you an idea. The last one is Waccamaw Intermediate, Waccamaw Middle. Currently, we are looking at a 0.5 at each one, so they would share a teacher. Now, you all know the campus proximity is perfect for that. It's literally a parking lot and a half away. At Waccamaw Middle School, they have 2 teachers that work primarily with our students that are resource, and then we have what we call a more moderate to severe class. At Waccamaw Intermediate, we have one teacher that works with resource, and we have a class that is combined. We have some kids that are not moderate to severe, but they're not in resource, that they need some of their general curriculum, math and English, taught by the special education teacher. And there is a need there. And there's a new group of kids that are coming in, and so it is a need that we have discovered this year. Now, we have been creative this year in serving those students, and I think we did a fine job. But in order to make sure that we keep up with the changes that are going on in that area, it is our recommendation or our ask that we look at that position as well. Those are for the schools. Any questions? Because now this is for our department. Our last requisition, I guess, request, is that we look at adding an additional occupational therapist. With the numbers that we're having and with the students that are coming in, A lot of our students have a lot more needs than just the academic piece. And so our occupational therapists who work closely with teachers, students that are on the spectrum, although students that have multiple needs, we are seeing that our numbers are increasing. On the sheet that I shared with you, and this was just something that Greenville County does in a way for them to kind of explain what a caseload is, because a lot of us want to say caseloads, teachers, how many are on the roster. The maximum, I guess, caseload is 160 with the OTs. Right now, excuse me, it's 140 with the OTs. They do it at Greenville. And so those 140, I guess you say, units or time that they spend with. Right now, with the 4 that we have right now, we're at our max over 168 per there, right there. This would allow us now, again, let me refrain, 160 units is when an OT is placed at a school at that one school. All of our OTs travel every day at every school. So we may have an OT that is located out in the Carvers Bay area. They're hitting 4 and 5 schools, which means travel time, that number then goes down to about 140. We're at about 165 right now average, and all 4 of our OTs are traveling daily. We've utilized Zoom right now for a lot of our IEP meetings because they have to attend. So we've cut down that travel piece of it because now they can go attend electronically. But the service has to be hand-to-hand. The service has to be face-to-face. They cannot, or we have folks that believe that they can do that digitally and over that platform. Maybe I'm old school, maybe not a believer, but I believe OT needs to be me and you in front of each other, me hands on you, you hands on me to learn that, not something we can do over a screen. So other than that, any questions? Again, please know we appreciate your support and everything. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Lance, Mr. Price, board members and guests. I'm here this evening, first of all, to thank you for your support for the innovations and special programs. We're very appreciative of everything that you've done for us. Currently in our ESOL department, we're serving 456 students. With those students, we have 6 staff members. I would also like to update you on next year. 50% of our staff members will be new to our department. Within our ESOL department, or within our students, we're serving 13 languages. Spanish being the largest, it's 94.6%. Chinese is next, and then it's French. So 6% is other. So today I'm asking, or I'm requesting for a new position for the ESOL department to serve as an instructional coach. It's our job to really work on building capacity within our schools so that they understand truly how to meet the needs of our children, not just academically, but socially and also emotionally, to adapt to the curriculum that we have for them. Also, please note the ESOL subgroup, or we call them multilingual learners. They are a part of our school report card. And so we want to make sure that we're building capacity by giving not just our ESOL teachers, but all teachers who serve multilingual learners the support that they need. And so I'm requesting an ESOL coach. As you see, it's a teacher on special assignment. That teacher will serve for 190 days. We're hoping to have a 2-year stint here. However, I think based on my observation, being that this is my first year as a supervisor, to make sure we build a system so that we're meeting, like as I stated, all the needs of our children. The focus will be to provide intensive support to all of our teachers of multilingual learners using strategies that will help students see and experience new English vocabulary to develop literacy skills that would aid in closing the achievement gap. As we look at our data from last year, writing, of course, was one of our lowest, but we know that literacy and writing works hand in hand. One of the responsibilities, I think, which should be critical for our teachers, not just teachers, but also principals as they observe, is to make sure that we are actively involved in those professional learning communities, helping with planning, delivering instruction, and also accommodating our kids so that the assessments really show show where we need to work to alter our instruction to meet our students' needs. The most important, I think, and it should have been the first bullet, is providing professional development for our ESOL teachers and our core teachers, helping them understand the strategies that will help our students move to the next level. Thirdly, I have assisting with monitoring our assessments. We just finished taking our access test, and I'm hoping that we get good results, but I do know that there are lots of work that needs to be done due to the gap that we have in our instruction, and also the amount of support that some of our teachers need, and not just our teachers, but also our administrators will need with monitoring. And lastly, which is very important, making sure we have those partnerships in place to ensure that our parents feel supported, and with a parent support, we'll build that continuity that we need to continue to communicate and collaborate as a team. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They will need the ESOL certification. I based the salary based off of 5 years up to 20, I think I went up to 25, but definitely ESOL certification will be required for this position. Our current teachers, as of today, yes, ma'am, they are certified. But as I stated, next year, we will have new teachers coming on board to replace those that are retiring. And that may look a little differently, Mrs. Hamill. Yeah.
It is for our. After, and
Absolutely. Thank you for that comment.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Smith, what kind of computer programs are we using for ESOL?
So currently, we're using A to Z for our lower grades. We have Brain Pop, and most recently, we've piloted a program called Off to Class, and that particular program focuses totally on listening, speaking, reading, and writing. After piloting the program, have found that it's not really beneficial, and so we are currently in search of another support, because what we're trying to do, as I stated, build that continuity so that what the kids are experiencing in Gen Ed, they're also being able to take that over into their small group sessions. So we're still exploring other options for our children.
Okay. I had another question, too. It goes along with what Ms. Hamill asked. You have ESOL teachers spread pretty much across the county.
Yes, sir.
Is there a particular time during the year, just like our regular ed teachers, that they meet and exchange ideas and so forth? We have that for the ESOL teachers as well?
Yes, sir, absolutely. We meet monthly here at the district office to basically help them stay in compliance as far as making sure they're supporting the teachers that they're supposed to be collaborating with. So giving them ideas such as using Safari Montage. We found that to be very helpful. But as I stated, this is new to our folks, so we've been seed planting. It's our hope that as we continue on with this, that we expand it where we're a little bit more focused and targeted. Our teachers are also expected to attend staff meetings on their campuses, even though they're stretched, because currently we have 2 teachers that are serving 5 schools. And we have looked at the numbers, trying to figure out how can we balance it, and so that is a project that we'll continue to look at and work together to see if we can figure out some balance for that. Okay, any more questions? All right, thank you again for your support.
Good evening, Chairman Dr. Lance, distinguished board members, Mr. Price, and our listening audience. Thank you for your unconditional support as it pertains to career and technology education. Tonight, I come before you to request an academic supplement stipend for career and technology education student organization advisors in the amount of $1,500. Career and technology education student organizations will be referred to as CTSOs, develop in students skills that we are all familiar: critical thinking, problem solving, written and oral communication, using high-tech hardware and navigating through technology software, career exploration, creativity, building self-esteem and confidence. CTSOs assist students gain a positive self-image through competitive events, service learning projects, and ultimately gaining a competitive edge in the workforce. CTSOs are co-curricular and academic in nature, an essential component of all CTE programs. In the world of career readiness, as evidenced beginning in 2015 and up until today, Future Business Leaders of America, the National FFA Organization, Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, HOSA, and Skills USA, students have earned state placements and national recognition, placing GCSD on the map of champions, a footprint, all under the care, safety, supervision, and instruction of an advisor. For further consideration, please refer to the Academic Supplement Policy GCBC-E, last revised August 2016. The request for academic supplements for CTSO advisors is for advisors whom oversee registered chapters operating from August to June with participation in district-level competitions. Any questions? The second request of tonight is to move the CTE executive salary and benefits to the general fund. This transaction would release funds that could provide and/or cover the cost of instructional materials, equipment, professional development, CTSOs, and other CTE program initiatives.
What fund was paying for your position, this position?
Perkins and state EIA monies.
Okay.
I have a question about the previous request.
Yes, ma'am.
How many advisors do you have?
If we look at the year 2021, you're looking at 11 at this point in time, and they're coming from those particular student organizations I mentioned.
My question is pertaining to this funding source switch. To go from there to the general, that means there are funds in your area that can only be used for certain things, right, when it comes to Korea?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
See, what's swinging through my head right now is that going to take away from somebody else's part?
I'm going to say no, because I'm part of this district, so no, it's not going to take away from
Mr. Price?
Mr. Price.
Ms.
Ms. Johnson?
Ms. Johnson? Who does that hurt? It benefits.
Well, if we switch, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Johnson, but if we change the funding source for that specific position into the general fund, that means that we have, you have to look at the budget that we are operating on
I'm with you.
and then find a way to apply that to it. Because right now it's funded from another source. So either we have to increase our revenues, the amount of money that we get to offset that, or we have to take something away to be able to fund that.
Okay. I'm good.
It's one of the two things.
I'm good.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, I've got one.
Yes, sir.
Personal finance education. We still teach the business courses, right?
Yes, that is a part of our CTE curriculum, yes, personal finance, yes.
Okay. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but, you know, being able to write a check, just like I heard Dr. Hamill say earlier, something about writing. I haven't asked the elementary, I didn't ask you, Mr. Cohen, about writing. I know from empirical data that I see almost on a daily basis, students struggle with printing, never mind writing. Is there such a thing as writing a check? I mean, the last time I wrote a check, I had to sign my name. I didn't just put, you know, in block letters, MC, and then take it to the bank. Are we teaching handwriting, and is that an important component?
Well, we're not teaching handwriting necessarily in CTE. Maybe Mr. Cohen's might, I'm not.
We are beginning next year full force with the handwriting. We started last year, but because of everything that happened, we sort of stepped away from it, but we are ready to begin. We already have the stuff that we need to begin full force in August of this year.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that, Mr. Combs. I was watching a basketball game the last few weeks, and the University of Texas had Texas written on their uniforms, but it wasn't in block print, it was written. And I wonder how many people could read that, you know, because it was actual writing. Then I think about students, if you ever looked at the original Declaration of Independence or Constitution that is written, I mean, it would be nice for students to be able to read it. You know, I know we have block print, I get it, I understand that, but I think it's an important skill that we still need to use. I don't think it's just for old folks like me. I think it should be used with everyone.
Unfortunately, a lot of that stuff has been taken out of standards, so a lot of people don't feel the importance of it. But I guess as a district, if that's something we want to move forward for, we're gonna have to put some stricter guidelines in place or expectations in place. By the time your child leaves third grade, you need to be able to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
So we can do that as a district.
And who establishes those state standards? Who approves those state standards, Mr. Cohen? To your knowledge? Legislature, then combined with the Board of Education, a state board?
Yes.
You know, I think that's important. I think it's very, very important that people advocate things like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Cohen, I could stop teaching my grand now to do cursive then, right?
I'll tell you, it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
I'm tired. I just thought I would do that.
Never stop
Okay.
teaching.
All right.
Okay, Chairman Lance, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I have one item to present, and this was kind of a late addition, that at a recent superintendent's meeting, we learned about a new grant-funded position. I like free money, so we just have to apply for it. But this one is not completely free. And it's a position called JAG, and it's an acronym that stands for Jobs for America's Graduates. And this position is used as an elective teacher at the high school level, and it targets students who may not be on track for on-time graduation or may not be projecting a 4-year collegiate experience. They may be interested in a 2-year associate's degree or a military pathway or a career pathway out of high school. And this position focuses on job readiness prep and job readiness skills. It does not have to be a certified teaching position. The curriculum has already been established. There is professional development that is provided by the state for anyone who occupies one of these JAG positions. Our part, if we were to apply as a partner for this grant, this actually comes out of the Office of the Governor, that our part would be $20,000 per teacher. So if approved, and if it's approved in the budget, and if we are approved with our grant application, we could get basically four teaching positions for almost the price of one. So comes at a cost savings. It adds value to a specific area in our 4 high schools that may not currently exist. And so that's why it's brought here, 1, because it addresses a need, and 2, because it comes at an extremely good value.
What's the length of the position? Is it just for 1 year, or does it?
It is a 3-year grant, and it is renewable.
Okay.
We sent our 4 high schools along with our 4 high school principals along with Dr. Hamill to go visit this in action in Marion High School. And I said, I want you to go take a look at it to see if this is something you might be interested in. And it was a unanimous yes. And I think it probably goes without saying that the person in the classroom who is the one who makes the difference in the success of this program. And so they were really excited about it and in support of it. And based on their interest, I added it to the budget presentation as an item. Right now, the cost per teacher is $20,000. There was an even greater incentive for those who were a part of this early implementation. I believe their part was only about $5,000 per teacher. So we're a little late to the party, but this is an incredibly good offer at a value for some needed positions.
One question. So how does this work? Do you identify the students and have the students enroll in the class in the 9th grade year and follow them through the 12th grade year?
It would not be in the 9th grade year because remember, the target student population are those who are not on track for on-time graduation. Mm-hmm. So it would probably begin with a 10th or 11th grade enrollment going through some specific curriculum and preparation for graduation. But it also provides academic support in their core area as well. No, ma'am, this would be additional.
So when
That's separate from this.
that's separate.
Different trajectories, yes, ma'am, well said.
And that's really, we've had such a, and I'm definitely.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Johnson? That's a great question. I would say it depends. The earlier that it's advertised, the more candidates we will have. The later it is advertised, the more struggle we're going to have. It's just like any other position when we advertise it, because even though it's not a requirement to have a certified person in this position, it would be a teacher type of role. And as I mentioned before, all 4 high school principals said, yes, we love it, but it's the person in the classroom who will determine whether or not this program is successful. So the earlier we are able to do that, the more likely we are to have a great applicant pool.
Will the salary be based on a teacher's salary?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The other side of this, the part that's paid by the grant, they pick up the rest of the salary and the benefits, and they have a formula that they use to project their grant request, their funding request. Our part is just the $20,000 per position. Everything else is covered by their side of the grant.
Not bad.
Thank you.
Any other, where are we at now? Board superintendent comments, or requests? Any observation from?
Oh, I did.
Just a reminder, we do have an executive session tonight.
Yes, I just wanted to recognize, I just
I
wanted
know,
to,
I know she did, I got that, yeah. No, he said, he thought I was attempting to block you down, all right?
No, I just want to make sure you heard her.
Okay.
oh, okay.
He forgot he's an EXO.
I just wanted to recognize, and I know it was, she was recognized in the newspaper, national champion Melissa Jefferson. She was recently honored by Georgetown County Council, and I just thought it was fitting that because she was a graduate of Carvers Bay High School, that we as a board at least acknowledge her efforts. She recently took the gold medal in the national finals of the women's 60-meter dash in track and field in Birmingham, Alabama, and she is a student at Coastal Carolina University, and she's doing extremely well. She was crowned NCAA national champion at the 2022 NCAA Division I Indoor Track and Field Championship. So anyway, this young lady is just doing leaps and bounds at Coastal in her field, and I just thought it fitting that we recognize her.
Yes. She beat some, I'm sorry, no, go ahead. No, I was just saying I watched the match on television, and she beat some really good superstars, you know, and it's a lot to be said for her efforts.
That's my neighbor too, by the way.
I'm sorry, Dr. Farrell. Go ahead.
Are you going to recognize the board member? Okay, good. Yeah, he's asked to recognize.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Let me first begin by thanking you for your flexibility with tonight's board meeting location and recognition changes. Mother Nature has presented some challenges for us the past couple of weeks. We have needed to make calls on after-school events and athletics, largely because of wind speeds. Based on reports from the Georgetown County Emergency Management Department and the National Weather Service, our area is expected to have wind gusts in excess of 60 miles per hour. South Carolina bus safety regulations limit the operations of school buses under such conditions. They state the following: when wind forces of 30 miles per hour or greater strike the side of a school bus, the forces exerted can exceed 500 pounds. Forces of this magnitude can greatly impact steering control and tracking of school buses in motion. This is true for sustained winds of 30 miles per hour or greater, or wind gusts greater than 40 miles per hour. To ignore these guidelines would put the safety of our students, coaches, and drivers at risk. Tomorrow will be a half day for students, with elementary dismissing at 11 a.m. and middle and high dismissing at 12 noon for professional collaboration. Our Tech Fair Showcase is just around the corner. It is scheduled for April 14th from 9 till 11 at Waccamaw Intermediate. Spring break is also coming up soon, with Good Friday recognized on April 15th and spring break the following week. Our next board meeting will be on May 3rd, and we will be back over at Georgetown High, where we will celebrate the academic scholars, student recognitions, and student-led pledge that were rescheduled for this evening. Last week, we began sharing a presentation on the modified calendar options we've been discussing and considering. The presentation was made to our student cabinet, support cabinet, and parent cabinet. We are planning 4 community presentations for those who are interested in learning more about it. Those dates are April 27th at Andrews High at 6 p.m., May 5th at Carvers Bay High at 6 p.m., May 9th at Waccamaw High at 6 p.m., and May 24th at Georgetown High at 6 p.m. Earlier today, we recognized our 5 finalists for District Teacher of the Year and Support Staff Member of the Year. The Teacher of the Year finalists are Annie Baxley from Sampit Elementary, Cesaldo Mendaros from Georgetown High, Laura Smith from Waccamaw Intermediate, Caroline Temple from Waccamaw Elementary, and Benjamin Tester from Waccamaw Middle. The Support Staff Member of the Year finalists are Amanda Fort from J.B. Beck, Sharon McLean from Waccamaw Elementary, Tina Gilliard Rice from Howard, Yvette Small from Plantersville Elementary, and Ronnie Trappier from McDonald Elementary. And finally, I'd like to recognize Ms. Kathy Ferdon Anderson, who is in attendance tonight as our newly elected board member. She will be eligible to be sworn in at the next board meeting on May 3rd, and we look forward to working together with you in a collaborative effort to move GCSD forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I got one question. There was a packet left at my seat. I'm trying to figure out where it came from. The 1996 Olympics in Atlanta. Oh, I'm sorry, I found it. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
I remember, I was right there. Other questions, comments? As I suggested a few minutes ago, the coolness forward on is that we do have an executive session schedule on discussion of personal matters regarding retirees. Do I have a message? A motion, please. To disembark into executive session. It's been moving properly. Second, that we disembark into dangerous territories.